Welcome to Untested Builds, where you figure out how to play as your favorite fictional characters in Pathfinder 2nd Edition. Comment below to suggest your favorite fictional characters, subscribe to be notified whenever we post a new video, and join the Patreon to vote in polls for upcoming builds. Today we're building an overpowered anime protagonist, less because he's super strong and more because his abilities are actually interesting. Satoru Gojo from Jujutsu Kaisen holds the super subtle title of the strongest Jujutsu sorcerer, a special class of people with the ability to not only see the manifestation of curses, but also have the abilities to use their own curse energy to combat them. Take a shot every time I say curse to become the most hydrated. Gojo, being a mixture of Kakashi and All Might with a bit of Saitama thrown in there for good measure, is a teacher who trains the next generation of potentials while also fighting against the status quo set by the sorcerers who came before. All of that while also distancing himself from the rest of humanity because of his insane powers. And a reminder, I'm a filthy dub anime casual, so if you see something missing that's only been in the manga so far, that's probably why. For our goals for this build, we need to be a master of Jujutsu. That means using curse energy for the typical anime energy blast, but also to reinforce our own body for increased strength and speed as well. Second, we've got some of the most powerful curse technique, which are sort of special abilities that can only be inherited from a sorcerer's bloodline. That sounds familiar. Gojo specifically inherited two separate techniques related to his family's abilities to manipulate space and matter. And last, we might play the part of a goofball, but we're still a professional and we've seen a lot in our relatively short career. For our stats, we're using the process outlined on page 20 of the core rulebook. Everything starts at 10, and depending on our ancestry background and class, we take different boosts and flaws to reach our level 1 stats. We're starting with 18 dexterity. If we're not annihilating everything we can see, we're usually just throwing fists, and those have finesse. 14 wisdom and charisma, one is our casting modifier, and well, the other is 2. 12 strength, extra damage on our attacks is always nice. 10 constitution, we're a lanky fellow, but we've never been hit, so who knows how much HP we actually have. And 10 intelligence, we're not dumb, but we don't exactly devote much time to training abilities that aren't related to Jujutsu. For our skills, nothing unexpected here. We're legendary in athletics, acrobatics, curse lore, and occultism. We've got training in nature and religion too to cover more of our magical bases, and training in diplomacy and deception for dealing with those pesky higher-ups. Gojo is a human even special grade curses are wary of. Versatile humans gain a general feat of our choice. The Schooled in Secrets feat lets us use our occultism in place of diplomacy when gathering information about cults and secret societies, and we can automatically recognize other members of occult groups we're a part of. We'll take the Cursed Family background for training in occultism and curse lore, as well as the Oddity Identification feat for a +2 circumstance bonus to occultism checks to identify magic with a mental possession, prediction, or scrying traits. For our Ancestry feat, Natural Ambition gives us an extra level 1 class feat. Strength is the most important determining factor in Jujutsu after all. Gojo and most of the main cast all call themselves sorcerers, but Gojo's fighting style and teaching style seem more like a monk to me. Also, we don't just focus on melee combat, but also blast with spells. Monks not only gain physical abilities like powerful fists to upgrade their unarmed attacks from D4s to D6s and flurry of blows to make 2 unarmed attacks in a single action, but they also get a casting modder through their key abilities. Key Rush lets us make any combination of 2 strides or steps in a single action at the cost of a focus point, and Key Strike, which adds a +1 status bonus to an unarmed attack or a flurry of blows, and the strikes deal an extra 1d6 of force, positive, negative, or lawful damage. We're pretty heavy on the curse energy, but that doesn't mean our body is completely neglected. Brawling Focus gives us the critical specialization effects of unarmed strikes, forcing a fortitude save against our monk DC whenever we crit on an unarmed attack, and slowing by 1 action on the next turn if they fail. We'll take the quick jump feat to make a long or a high jump in a single action instead of needing to make the initial stride in the direction we plan to jump first. Level 3 monks gain Mystic Strikes for unarmed strikes that count as magical for the purposes of overcoming resistances, and incredible movement for 10 more feet of movement speed as long as we're not wearing armor, increasing by an additional 5 feet at levels 7, 11, 15, and 20. Time to get our first part of our most distinctive feature, and the one we're usually hiding, our 6 Eyes ability. Canny Acumen lets us upgrade one of our saving throws or our perception to expert and automatically to master level 17, and we're already an expert in our saving throws, so let's slap on some new eyes. We'll pick up the Acrobat dedication, mostly because it puts our acrobatic skill on autopilot, immediately raising it to expert, and again to master at level 7, and finally to legendary at level 15. A lot of automatic increases in this build outside of the usual class stuff. We'll get a use out of our reaction with Recognize Spell to identify a spell we can see the casting of as a reaction by passing a skill check. If we critically succeed, we also gain a +1 circumstance bonus to our AC or saving throw against that spell. Level 5 monks gain alertness even though we already have expert perception, and expert strikes for expert proficiency in unarmed attacks. Our family gives us a bit more help becoming the non-standard anomaly we are today with the Witch Warden Ancestry feat, for +1 circumstance bonus to saving throws against curses and against spells cast by witches and hags, aka violent curse users. And we also gain the critical success results on regular successes against spells from enemies with those traits too. We'll take assured identification, so whenever we use occultism to identify magic, the lowest we can roll is a failure instead of a critical failure, and if we would roll a success and misidentify a cursed item, we simply aren't able to identify it instead. We'll pick up our last raw cursed energy ability before moving on to cursed techniques with Key Blast. We can spend up to 3 actions to force a fortitude save on a cone to deal 2d6 force damage in a 15-foot cone if we spend a single action, 3d6 damage in a 30-foot cone if we spend 2 actions, and 4d6 damage in a 60-foot cone for 3 actions. Also, knocking back any creatures hit 5 feet on a fail or 10 feet on a critical fail. Technically, this works more like the red side of Limitless, but we technically haven't inherited that yet. Level 7 monks gain weapon specialization for an additional 2 damage on our unarmed strikes, and our first path to perfection to increase one of our saving throws to master proficiency and critical success results on regular successes. We're upping our reflex saves from now since that's all we should need for mundane curses out there. We'll pick up the toughness feat for an extra max HP equal to our level and reduce recovery from dying checks to 9 plus our dying condition value, not that we'd ever actually lose. We'll get some better dodging with the Dodge Away Acrobat feat to gain a +1 circumstance bonus to AC as a reaction to an attack we're aware of as long as we aren't flat-footed, and if the attack misses we can make a 10-foot step for some cheeky repositioning to toy with our opponents. Our allies aren't going to be nearly as good at avoiding danger as we are, so let's help them out. The Root Magic skill feat lets us make a talisman we can give to an ally for a +2 circumstance bonus to their saving throws against the first spell or haunt they are subjected to throughout their day. Level 9 monks gain monk expertise for expert divine spell attacks and DCs thanks to our key spells, and metal strikes to treat our unarmed attacks as cold iron or silver for the purposes of dealing damage to supernatural creatures. We'll take the multi-talented feat to gain our family's cursed techniques with an oracle dedication. Cosmos Mystery Oracles gain eyes lit by starry light and hair and clothing that floats around them. And also Divine Cantrips, Disrupt Undead deals 5d6 plus our charisma modifier of positive damage to an undead creature based on a fortitude save, enfeebling them for 1 round on a critical fail. Forbidding Ward protects an ally from a specific enemy, giving them a +1 status bonus to AC and saving throws against that enemy's attacks and spells. We'll gain our first revelation for the Spray of Stars focus spell to force a reflex save in a 15-foot cone dealing 5d4 fire damage and dazzling creatures who fail. But since this is a curse bound spell, we gain the effects of our minor curse, meaning we become enfeebled and get penalties on grapple, shove, and force movement saves and DCs. The Quick Recognition skill feat lets us use Recognize spell as a free action if we're attempting to identify any occult spell, so now we don't have to decide between identifying an incoming spell and dodging a melee attack and getting a free double step. Level 11 monks gain their second path to perfection, and now that we have our inherited techniques, it's time we upgrade our will saves to master proficiency for critical success results and regular successes so we aren't paralyzed by all of the information coming through our eyes. We'll take the Feather Step feat so we can step in difficult terrain, meaning our dodge away will always be useful even if we aren't exactly fighting in an open field. We'll take the Meditative Focus feat to regain 2 focus points whenever we refocus instead of just 1, since not only do we simply have more cursed energy than the average sorcerer, but we also use our energy more efficiently. But just because others can see what we have, that doesn't mean they can understand it. Bizarre Magic increases the DCs to identify magic we use by 5. Level 13 monks gain Master Strikes and Graceful Mastery for Master Proficiency in Unarmed Strikes, Simple Weapons, and Unarmored Defense. We'll keep our upbeat facade going with Keep Up Appearances to make a deception check as a reaction to being affected by an emotion effect. If we succeed, the creature causing the effect believes we were not affected and can't benefit from the results even if we failed the initial saving throw. The Water Sprint feat allows us to stride across bodies of water so long as we end our movement on solid ground. Not exactly water walk, but finding room for another class feat was kind of hard because we're too busy getting cursed techniques. Domain Acumen gives us the initial domain spell from the Moon domain. Moonbeam is our hollow purple, making a spell attack roll and dealing 7d6 fire damage that counts as coming from a silver source, and dazzling creatures within 120 feet for a giant laser of pure destruction. Level 15 monks gain greater weapon specialization for 6 flat damage on our master unarmed strikes, and our third path to perfection for legendary will saves, regular fails on critical fails, and only half damage against failed will saves. This seems to be a very wisdom focused level. Incredible Initiative gives us a +2 circumstance bonus to all initiative rolls, even ones that don't actually use our perception modifier. We'll take the Catfall feat to completely negate fall damage thanks to our legendary acrobatics proficiency. We'll gain the blue side of Limitless with our Advanced Revelation for the Interstellar Void spell to open a vacuum around a creature within 30 feet, forcing a Fortitude save to deal 8d6 cold damage. We can also sustain this for up to a minute, forcing a Fortitude save and dealing the damage again on following turns, and forcing the targeted to be fatigued during the duration. Level 17 monks gain Adamantine Strikes to treat our unarmed attacks as adamantine for the purposes of overcoming resistances, and Graceful Legend for legendary unarmored defense and Master Divine spell attacks and DCs. And we gain Master Perception proficiency thanks to our Candy Acumen. We'll take the Clever Improviser Ancestry feat to be good at basically everything thanks to the Untrained Improvisation feat to gain a proficiency bonus equal to our level for all skills we're untrained in. We can also use the trained actions of skills we're trained in. Being able to literally see the fundamental laws of the universe with the naked eye kind of makes you good at things without trying. We can't really fly, but that hasn't stopped us from just chilling out in the air. The Cloud Jump feat lets us jump as high vertically as we could normally jump horizontally and triples our usual long jump distance. Our focus pool gets one last dose of efficiency with Meditative Wellspring to regain 3 focus points instead of 2 whenever we refocus. Level 17 monks gain Perfected Form to treat the first strike we make each turn as a 10 if we happen to roll less than a 10. For our final general feat, the Fleet feat gives us an additional 5 feet of movement speed for an insane 60 feet of movement speed once we're level 20 for a ridiculous 180 foot jump depending on our athletics check. For our final skill feat, the Graceful Leaper Acrobat feat lets us use our acrobatics proficiency instead of athletics whenever we perform a longer high jump to make those 180 foot jumps every turn a bit easier to get off. For our capstone, I haven't forgotten about Gojo's domain expansion. I like the idea that Gojo's ultimate attack is simply subjecting an opponent to all the sensory information he's had to deal with constantly. That's basically what Debilitating Dichotomy does, forcing a will save on a target and ourselves, dealing 27d6 mental damage based on a will save and stunning them on a critical fail. Luckily, we gain a degree of success better on our will save, and we already have legendary will saves and better results on them thanks to our third path to perfection, almost as if we planned it that way. But now that we're level 20, let's look at the pros and cons of this build. For starters, at least until the new Magus is released in Secrets of Magic, monks are still one of the best base classes to build against since they have both automatic weapon and spell proficiencies, as long as you're casting divine or occult spells, that is. And we're taking advantage of that here with both divine key spells and divine revelation spells. Second, thanks to our large pool of focus spells, we functionally have a level 10 spell we can cast to attack any saving throw our enemy is weakest to. And finally, we're highly mobile with 60 feet of speed, 180 foot jump distance, and even extra movement when our enemies attack us as a reaction. For cons, we went all in on the focus spells. Sure, we can regain 3 focus points during a refocus, but that's not until level 18, and even then, it's only a pool of 3 when we have 7 focus spells. We've also got a pretty bad Fortitude save, which isn't so great since basically every curse in the game either forces a will save or a Fortitude save. But we've got other things to help with curses. Besides, it's not like we're out here eating cursed objects. We've got a guy for that. Thanks for tuning in to this build. If you're one of my 50% of watchers who's not subscribed, why not subscribe today to help the channel grow and get us one step closer to that coveted community tab. And tap the bell to get notified whenever we post a new build. And if you're feeling super generous, join the Patreon to vote on polls and download character sheets like these lovely people. Until next time, take care, stay safe, and play more Pathfinder.